Well, hello again, and this time something completely different. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I do a range of genres of photography, particularly wildlife, and but I also do other things, landscape and a bit of sport and a bit of portrait work. But anyway, I wanted to talk about something completely different today, really going back to the very beginning. Now today, we use some incredible cameras. This is my Nikon Z9, and I'm actually recording this video using my Nikon Z8. And we have all become so reliant on the technology that these cameras contain. Fundamentally now they are computers with lenses on the front, and you think about the incredible autofocus capabilities as well as everything else that is offered, and you look at the menus on the back of these cameras and they are phenomenal. And of course really you're almost guaranteed to get a decent picture out of them unless you do something, to be honest, quite really silly. So they're incredible. But for me, my journey into photography, which has always just been a hobby, I'm not a professional, but I enjoy photography. But my journey started way back in 1959 with one of these. This is the Kodak Box Brownie. It was actually my mother's, and I took this on a school party trip to Bruges in Belgium, and it gave me some quite reasonable photographs. They were black and white, but that's the way of things at those days, and it is just so incredibly simple. I mean, if you look inside it, of course there's no computer, there's virtually nothing apart from seeing the where the shutter release works, and that is it. You put your film in. There's absolutely no controls on this, no focus control, no aperture, no shutter speed, and all you do is wind it on and press the shutter release to take the picture. Phenomenal. And it's incredible where we have progressed to today. So that was the one that I first started with. I went through a couple of other cameras during the 60s. I had a thing called a Kodak 44A, which my parents gave me. And then when I was a late teenager, I had a Zenit camera. But the first, what I'll call professional level camera, was actually an Olympus. Very similar to this one. I had an Olympus OM10, which I used as my mainstream camera for both film, negative film that is, and slides throughout the 80s and well into the 90s, and that was really my workhorse before switching to the very first generations of digital. And anyway, of course, then yes, it was through a progression of digital, but through all of that era, my photography was basically family snaps, holiday snaps, really nothing very serious. Put it on auto, put a film in the camera, see what came out. You took it away to the local processing house, and you got back your range of prints or your box of slides. In the very early days, I did actually have some experience in a darkroom, because at my prep school we had a little camera club, and one of our teachers there set this up. So when I was using that Box Brownie, and indeed my 44A, I used to take the film in there, and we could process it and produce some contact prints and some very basic enlargements. So I did learn the basic principles. And then when I had my Zenit, my father actually had a darkroom which he had built in what was their new house, and I used to go and do some printing and enlarging with him in that darkroom. But from when I got married in 1972, I never did any more of that. It was all done by whatever came out of the processing house. Anyway, as I said, in 1996 I moved into digital, and I went through several cameras before settling on the Nikon. And at that time, the first Nikon DSLR I got was the D7000, which was a great camera. And through that I progressed to the D810, the D850 and the D500, and then latterly switching to the mirrorless cameras, which I'm using today. And so I haven't touched film since the late or mid-90s, when I got rid of the Olympus I had at the time, which in many ways I regret. Anyway, I just decided, something triggered it. A friend of mine offered me an OM10 about a year ago, so over a year ago, and I thought, okay, well, I've not used one for so many years, so let's give it a go. Sadly, I found that this particular camera had a fault, which when I took it to the local camera store, they said, well, to be frank with you, sir, it's going to cost more to repair it than it's worth. You're really better off, if you really want to do some film photography, in buying obviously a used one. And that set my mind thinking. The one that I'd been given came with an Olympus 50mm lens, which in fact is what I've got on here. So I looked around, I looked on eBay, and then I also spoke to the camera store, and they had this camera body available for just £100, and this is an OM1N. Now the OM1 in its day, which was the 80s, was a professional level 35mm camera. It used to be advertised, I remember, by David Bailey. And so rather than going on eBay, where you're never quite sure what you're going to get, I decided I would buy this camera because it came with a 6-month warranty from my local store, which is Park Cameras in Burgess Hill. And I took this out, and I really was delighted with the results it gave me. Being a Nikon man, I was also aware that one of the leading cameras, most popular professional 35mm SLR cameras, I should say, was the Nikon F5. And Park Cameras had one for sale. So I also bought this Nikon F5, and I bought with it 2 different lenses. I bought the 50mm and this particular one that's on here, which is the 105mm f1.2.8, and started using this with a variety of films. And again, I really was pleased with the results this gave. It was a challenge because you become used to using the computer and so much of the work done for you. So now I really had to think about things, what settings I was going to use. A bit like using manual mode on a modern mirrorless camera, but more so because you can't just rattle off several hundred photographs for free as you can with a digital camera. Every picture here costs money, the cost of the film and the cost of processing. So you have to think about it, and you make to stop out, is this picture going to be worth taking? And am I getting the right settings? And I enjoyed that challenge once again, going back to that challenge. And more importantly, I really found that the results that this gave me stood up. Very different in what I get out of, say, my Z9, because shooting raw, here of course every picture is colour, but you can convert to black and white, and you can use products like Silver, sorry about the pigeon there, Silver Effects to do some amazing black and white conversion work, but it doesn't honestly look the same as what you get out of a genuine film camera. And I do a lot of work as a volunteer at a local heritage steam railway, the Bluebell Railway, and I felt this was a subject that really lent itself to old style photography. So I'm going to show you a whole range of different pictures that I've taken in film using these cameras, and I hope you find this interesting, and perhaps you might take up the challenge, because I think it's really worth getting into. Very different, as I say, from using a modern digital camera. Obviously, there's no way I'm going to get rid of these. These are absolutely bread and butter cameras for wildlife photography and just about anything you want to do. And of course, the video, which you can't do on a film camera. But the challenge and the rewards you get from going back to the original way of doing photography, let's say, I think is excellent, and I would certainly advocate it for anybody. Well, I hope you find that interesting, and I hope you like the pictures. Thank you for watching.